Hello, passionate Detroit Lions fans. Today, we're diving into a pivotal moment for our beloved team. With the NFL upping teams' budgets, our GM Brad Holmes now has a golden opportunity to take our game to the next level. Will we see a big name joining the Lions, or will Holmes continue his careful team-building strategy? If you're as eager as I am to find out, hit that like button and get ready for a deep dive into this intriguing strategy. The Detroit Lions got lucky recently because the NFL decided to give teams more money to spend on players. This means the Lions have extra cash to use during the 2024 offseason. Brad Holmes, who picks players for the Lions, usually likes to find young players in the NFL draft. But now, with more money, he might bring in a famous, experienced player to help the team do even better. On a radio show, Holmes talked about his plans. He said it's hard to decide what a bigger fish means in terms of players. He believes in picking players carefully and not just going for big names. He wants to make sure the team does well in the important games at the end of the year, not just get attention in March when new players are picked. Holmes doesn't feel rushed to make big changes just because the Lions did really well last year, getting to the NFC Championship game. He wants to keep improving without going backwards. Even with more money, Holmes plans to stay careful. The Lions have always been smart about picking new players, especially ones from outside their team. They look for players who fit well with the team's culture. Holmes thinks having more money might let them get a really good player they couldn't afford before, but he still wants to be careful and stick to their plan. The Lions need some new players in certain positions that could really help the team, but Holmes doesn't think just one player will make them win the Super Bowl. He believes in having lots of good players in case some get hurt. He talked about how last year they got C.D. Deuce and Emmanuel Mosley, but both got hurt and missed a lot of games. This shows that even good players might not always help if they get injured. So Holmes wants to keep picking players thoughtfully to make the team stronger. After considering the impact of the increased budget on the Lions roster, let's now shift our focus to something equally exciting. Brad Holmes is facing a new challenge, picking players later in this year's draft. Can he replicate his past success in finding hidden talents in the later stages? Let's discover how Holmes plans to turn this new scenario into a strategic advantage for the Lions. Brad Holmes, the guy in charge of choosing new players for the Detroit Lions, is really excited about picking players later in the NFL draft this year. Usually, the Lions get to choose early, but this time they're picking 29th in the first round. Holmes finds it more thrilling to pick players later. He talked on a radio show about how choosing early is easier because there aren't as many players to think about. But he likes the challenge of looking at lots of players and finding the best ones later in the draft. When Holmes worked with the Rams, he got used to not even having a pick in the first round. He thinks it's more fun to have to look really closely at a lot of players and make a smart choice. Everyone at the Lions gets super excited when they finally pick a player. Holmes thinks it's more interesting to choose later because you have to really think hard about each player. He's found great players in the later rounds before, both with the Rams and the Lions. He's not worried about not picking early. In fact, he's pretty happy about it. And that wraps up our look at the Detroit Lions' fascinating strategies for the upcoming season. From savvy financial decisions to a calculated approach in the draft, Brad Holmes is definitely playing a strategic game of chess here. If you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes insight into the Lions, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis. Keep the faith in the Lions, and see you next time with more exciting updates from our team.